The sound of crashing waves filled the early morning air as the SEAL team gathered on the training grounds. The sun had barely risen, yet every man stood sharp and focused, except for one new recruit who seemed strangely out of place. Her name was Ava Cole. Quiet, reserved, and always keeping her distance. She didn't fit the typical image of a Navy SEAL trainee. While the others joked around and boasted about their past missions, Ava stood silently at the edge, her eyes scanning the horizon like she was somewhere else entirely. From the moment she joined the program, the team doubted her. She barely spoke, never bragged about her background, and avoided confrontation. To them, she seemed weak, someone who couldn't possibly handle the pressure of elite military life. Too soft, one of the men whispered after watching her struggle with the obstacle course. They laughed when she fell, rolled their eyes when she hesitated, and pushed harder just to prove she didn't belong. Ava didn't fight back. She simply took every insult, every glare, in silence. But behind those calm eyes, something much darker was waiting. What no one knew was that Ava wasn't just another recruit trying to earn a badge. Before joining the SEALs, she was part of a classified government program that didn't officially exist, a program built to create perfect operatives. She had completed missions in places no one ever spoke about, ended threats before they reached the news, and vanished before anyone could remember her face. Her records were wiped clean, her identity hidden under layers of government secrecy. To the SEAL team, she was just the shy girl. To the agency that made her, she was Asset 47, a name whispered in fear by people who knew what she was capable of. One afternoon, during a high-stress combat simulation, everything changed. The team leader pushed her to far, mocking her hesitation, calling her useless in front of everyone. The quiet girl they thought they knew finally looked up, her eyes cold and unreadable. Then, something in her shifted. What happened next left even the most experienced soldiers frozen in disbelief. The girl they'd kicked out for being shy was about to remind them exactly why she was the government's most dangerous secret. And that was only the beginning. The room fell silent after Ava's eyes met the team leaders. There was something about the way she stood, calm, still, almost too steady. It wasn't anger they saw, but control. The kind that only comes from someone who's seen real danger before. She didn't raise her voice, didn't argue. She simply followed the next command with precision, so sharp it made everyone pause. Every move she made after that seemed deliberate, quiet, but powerful. The same people who once mocked her were now watching her with uneasy curiosity, unsure if they had underestimated her or if something else was going on. Later that night, while the others slept, Ava sat alone by the shore. The moonlight reflected off the water as she traced faint scars along her wrist, marks from another life. Memories flashed behind her eyes, a secret training facility hidden beneath the desert, a voice giving orders through an earpiece, and faces of people she could never forget. She wasn't supposed to be here. Her presence in the SEAL program wasn't an accident, it was an assignment. Someone high up wanted her close to this team, but she didn't yet know why. The next morning, rumors began to spread. One of the instructors had recognized something familiar in Ava's movements, techniques that weren't standard Navy training. The way she handled weapons, the way she read terrain, even how she reacted before danger appeared was too refined, too practiced. The others began to whisper again, but this time with caution instead of laughter. Who was she really? Ava said nothing. She just kept her focus on the mission. But deep inside, she could feel the walls closing in. Someone from her past had found her again, and the SEAL team she was sent to join might soon discover the truth she'd been ordered to bury forever. Days passed, and the tension within the team grew heavier. The men tried to pretend nothing had changed, but every time Ava walked into the room, conversations faded into silence. Even the captain, who rarely showed emotion, started watching her closely during drills. There was something unsettling about how she seemed to anticipate commands before they were given, how she could navigate any terrain like she'd memorized it years ago. No one could explain it, and Ava offered no answers. During a night training session in the woods, the team was ambushed by an unknown group part of a surprise exercise meant to test their reactions. But before anyone could react, Ava moved with lightning precision. She signaled quietly, redirected fire, and guided her teammates through the chaos without hesitation. When it was over, the instructors were stunned. The mission, meant to last an hour, was completed in minutes all because of her. After that night, whispers turned into suspicion. "No regular recruit moves like that," one of the men muttered. Some started digging into her file, but the records stopped halfway through her history. Everything before that was blank: no family, no school, no service record. It was as if Ava Cole didn't exist before a year ago. Back in her quarters, Ava sat on her bunk, staring at a small metal tag hidden in her palm. It wasn't her SEAL ID, it was something else. Marked only with the letters MK47. She had promised herself she'd left that world behind. But the strange coded message she found slipped under her door that morning said otherwise. "Your cover is breaking. Prepare for extraction." Ava's heart raced as she folded the note. Whoever sent it knew exactly who she wasn't. That meant her secret was no longer safe. The next few days felt like walking on thin ice. Every step Ava took, every glance she caught, carried weight. The SEAL team no longer treated her like an outsider. They treated her like a puzzle they couldn't solve. Orders were quieter, looks were longer, and even the jokes had stopped. The atmosphere had changed, and everyone could feel it. But what none of them knew was that Ava was fighting a war inside her own mind. The message she received still echoed in her head, warning her that her real mission was far from over. One evening, the base alarms suddenly went off. Unauthorized access detected. The team rushed to the control room, confusion spreading like wildfire. Security footage showed a figure slipping through restricted zones, heading straight for the weapons storage. Before anyone could react, the power cut out. Total darkness. The team leader barked orders, flashlights flickering through the halls. When Ava quietly disappeared from sight, when the lights came back, the intruder was gone, but so was Ava. Her gear was missing, her bunk empty. The team split up to search the compound, shouting her name through the corridors. They didn't know if she'd been taken, or if she was the one behind it. The captain's voice was sharp over the radio, demanding answers, but no one could give one. Miles away, under the cover of night, Ava moved through the forest with practiced silence. Her pulse was steady, but her thoughts raced. Someone had triggered her extraction early, and she needed to find out who. In the distance, she could already hear the helicopters searching for her. The SEAL team wasn't going to let her vanish easily this time. And as the wind howled through the trees, Ava finally realized this wasn't just about her secret anymore. Someone was using her to start something far bigger. Ava's boots sank softly into the wet ground. As she moved deeper into the forest, guided only by the faint glow of her tracker. The night was cold and still, too quiet for comfort. She stopped beside an old radio tower, her designated extraction point. But something felt wrong. The coordinates were correct, yet the silence around her was unnerving. No chopper, no signal, just the hum of the wind and the rustle of trees. Then her earpiece crackled to life with a voice she hadn't heard in years. Asset 47. It said, calm and familiar. "You weren't supposed to remember." Her breath caught. The voice belonged to Commander Hal, the man who had trained her, the same one she thought was dead. He'd vanished years ago, after the agency shut down her program. Ava's hands tightened around her weapon as she scanned the shadows. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. Hale's laugh echoed faintly. "You were never meant to join the SEALs. You were meant to control them. The mission isn't over. Ava's just beginning. Before she could respond, a bright light burst through the trees. The SEAL team had found her. Their voices rang out, ordering her to drop her weapon, but Hale's words were still ringing in her mind. As she turned toward the approaching figures, her wrist tracker began flashing a coded signal she recognized all too well. It wasn't a rescue signal. It was a detonation countdown. Ava's pulse spiked. She realized the extraction wasn't for her, was a trap. Someone was using her as bait, and the entire SEAL team was walking right into it in that split second, surrounded by her own teammates and haunted by the man who made her what she was. Ava knew one thing for certain, whatever was coming next. There was no turning back. The forest erupted in chaos. The red light on Ava's wrist blinked faster, its pulse syncing with her heartbeat. She shouted for the team to fall back, but they hesitated, guns raised, unsure who to trust. "There's a bomb," she yelled, her voice cutting through the noise. For a moment, everything froze. Then the captain's expression shifted from anger to shock as he saw the tracker glowing on her wrist. He knew she wasn't lying. Ava ripped the device off and threw it deep into the trees, diving to the ground as a blast shook the forest floor. The explosion wasn't massive, but it was enough to send debris flying and the team scattering for cover. Smoke filled the air, and through it, she saw him, Commander Hale, stepping out from behind the wreckage, alive and calm, just like before. "You were never supposed to survive that program," he said, walking closer. "But you did. And now you've ruined everything." Ava steadied her aim, her weapon trembling slightly in her hands. "You used me," she said, her voice low but steady. "You made me believe I was doing something good." Hale smirked. "You were. Until you forgot who you belonged to." The SEAL team surrounded them, weapons ready. Hale reached for a small remote in his hand, but Ava was faster. With a sharp move, she shot the device, sparks flying as it shattered. The tension broke all at once. The team moved in, taking Hall down as Ava stood frozen, her past and present colliding in that single moment. As the dust settled, the captain approached her carefully. "You saved us," he said quietly. Ava didn't answer. She just looked toward the horizon where dawn was breaking, her face unreadable. But as she turned away, something on the ground caught her eye, another tracker, blinking faintly in the dirt. The red light pulsed again. Hale wasn't working alone, and somewhere out there, another signal had just been activated. Ava knelt beside the blinking tracker, her reflection flickering in its faint red light. The forest was quiet again, but it wasn't peace, it was the calm after something unfinished. The SEAL team stood behind her, bruised and covered in dirt, still trying to understand what had just happened. The captain stepped forward, picking up the device carefully. "This wasn't just a bomb," he said. "It's a signal. Someone else is out there." Ava nodded slowly. She already knew. The program that created her Project MK47 had never relied on just one asset. There were others like her, trained in silence, erased from the system, waiting for activation. Hale was only a piece of something larger, something hidden deep inside government walls as they made their way back to the base. The first light of morning broke through the trees. The world looked calm again, almost normal. But Ava could feel the shift inside her, a strange peace mixed with uncertainty. She had spent her entire life being someone else, following orders she never questioned. For the first time, she had broken free of that control. When they reached the landing zone, the captain turned to her. "You don't have to go back," he said quietly. "We can make this right." Ava looked at him, a faint smile touching her lips. "You don't know what right looks like anymore," she said softly. "But I'll find it." She handed him her SEAL badge, the symbol of a life she could no longer live. Then she walked away, disappearing into the rising sun, leaving behind the only team that ever truly saw her. Somewhere deep underground, a screen flickered to life. Another name appeared on the monitor beneath the same project code. MK47. And the countdown started all over again. If you enjoyed this story and want more intense thrillers and suspenseful adventures, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with friends who love a good mystery. Your support helps me bring you more stories just like this one.